So, what's up, y'all? Keefy here, and get serious. Take the glasses off. Um, Episode 3 of War Stories is a very special one to me. They're all kind of special. That's the whole purpose of this thing. They're pretty special to me. Um, but this is a particularly special one because this is a very, very cool time. This is a music journalism story. I realized that, I think it's essential to kind of know me, that the first couple of stories are fan stories. So, episode 1 was Woodstock 99, and episode 2 was my sort of introduction to New York hardcore. But episode 3 is a special one. It's a journalism story. This is before Ghost Cult existed. I'm still having technical issues here with this camera. Sorry. Just pull it back a little bit. There we go. Sorry. So, this is before Ghost Cult existed and before I joined Ghost Cult in its first few months. And this is when I was running Metal Army America, which was the sort of blabbermouth of Century Media. Century Media owned their own music website. They used to throw parties in LA and New York and Chicago. They used to have all kinds of stuff, a lot of premieres, put a lot of bands on the map. Lamb of God, Mastodon did a lot of premiere stuff in 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010 with those guys. And I was there. I was there as a correspondent, and then I was kind of helping to run it, and then I was running it for like the last couple of years. It was in existence, 2011 to 12, before it went out of business, and now it is defunct. You can find some of that stuff on the Wayback Machine. And pretty cool. But if you like waybackmachine.org, some of that stuff shows up, still like screen grabbed and spidered from Google. But this was like a really big thing. I had been a music journalist for a few years already, written tons of news and reviews, interviewed bands. And Ozzy Osbourne was bringing his God Bless Ozzy Osbourne documentary in April of 2011, so 9 years ago this month, right around this time, to the Tribeca Film Festival. Tribeca Film Festival is one of the most famous film festivals in the world, and it definitely was very interesting. And I used to cover films professionally, to film reviews, and was definitely, a thing that I did. I did it for money. I was going to school at the time, undergrad at the time in Boston. So I was living in Boston. I moved there in 2005, and I was working for Metal Army while I put myself through school from BU. After being laid off during the economic downturn of 2008, I got laid off in 2009. I was going to school full-time. I was writing full-time, sort of, in my spare time, whatever spare time I had to write to make money. And anyway, so yeah, Tribeca Film Festival used to announce the movies they were going to show before they opened up the press application. So you used to see the whole slate of movies. Now they kind of roll them out and announce them in stages after you apply. So it's implied, like Comic-Con or anything else, you'll go anyway. As a member of the press, you want to just go to this thing. And so it doesn't really matter what they show, you want to go, especially when you cover films. But earlier in this time, they used to announce the films first. And God Bless Ozzy Osbourne was one of the first thing announced, because they knew it was going to be like a big deal. They had several public showings with Ozzy, Jack, and the two directors, Mike Fleiss and Mike Piscatelli, who are also movie producers now. It was a pretty incredible scenario to have. Ozzy had been kind of, pretty consistent at that time. Sabbath had not yet reconvened to do 13 yet. I think this was right after. So, yeah, man, it was a crazy time in the metal world, and Tribeca was happening, and Ozzy was coming to Tribeca, and I was living in Boston, and I was like, oh, I'm going to come down for this Tribeca Film Festival. I think I missed one day of classes, which, April is kind of like almost finals. It's kind of crunch time for a semester in college. It's in my mid-30s, and I was getting my bachelor's in business management, with some marketing stuff peppered in there, focused on marketing whenever I could. But, yeah, so applied for Tribeca as press, got into Tribeca as press, which was pretty impressive. Metal Army had really good numbers, maybe 1 million hits a month at one point, so it looked pretty good. And I was really excited to come to New York. I got a friend of mine to let me come stay with them because I didn't have a place anymore, and I was kind of out of work, so I didn't really want to throw down on a hotel, and let me stay and sleep on a futon for like the whole week in not quite the Lower East Side, but almost the Lower East Side, sort of the top of the Lower East Side, 14th Street, over by the Con Ed area. So Avenue C or D and 14th Street, just like feels like home to me. It's true New York City. And yeah, so planned to come down, brought a week of clothes, had my laptop, recorder at the time that I had, and I was angling to get an interview with Ozzy. I was trying to interview him, and I had never been to Tribeca either, so that was exciting. And I've gone to film festivals, including in Boston, which I had reviewed. There was some Boston film festivals which had some stuff that I had reviewed for Metal Army, but I was like, yo, this is a step up. Let's do something different outside of the box. Obviously, it's still music, it's still metal, it's still rock, but like, this is pretty cool. Let's go do this Ozzy thing at the Tribeca Film Festival for God Bless Ozzy Osbourne. Jack produced the movie, co-produced it, so it was kind of thrilling. I got in, and there's a lot of hoops to jump through. You get your passes and everything. They send you everything in the mail. You can sort of sign in and get your stuff. I'll save some of the complicated rigmarole, but there were actually several great music documentaries in Tribeca that year, as well as just some awesome documentaries and films, creative, films and stuff. Interestingly, I think the next year was the Avengers, and the Avengers had their New York City premiere at Tribeca, which was awesome. So I come down, I stay with my friends. First couple of days of the festival are just kind of festival stuff. You go see some films. There's a little news area, like one dedicated area where press can hang out, write, work, meet each other. They had like free snacks and stuff. It was like sponsored by like Life Water and Magnum ice cream bars. I was thinner back then. I'm newly with the shaved head and thinner back then, so I think I ate my share of ice cream bars and Life Waters consumed. Pellegrino, San Pellegrino, whatever it was the sparkly water. It was fun. It was nice to get kind of this kind of upscale treatment. And so there were several options. There was an option to kind of watch the Q&A, watch the film privately, and then do a Q&A with Ozzy, the two co-directors, and Jack, and a moderator. And then there was a separate viewing with the like a fan audience, which was fucking wild. So School of Visual Arts has a theater, and School of Visual Arts is like one of the places they use in New York City for Tribeca Film Festival. Like, obviously, Tribeca Film Center, IFC Film Center, several movie theaters around New York City get kind of rented out for the time. And School of Visual Arts is where they have a lot of like Q&As and private little screenings and things like this. So I went to 2 screenings of the movie. So I went to the one screening for the press, took notes in the dark with a little pen and paper. It was like, you cry watching this thing. It's really well done. Gives you a real better picture of Ozzy. I think after the Osbournes, I think there was, and there still is, this impression of Ozzy that's wrong that people have. I have loved Black Sabbath since I am a little tyke. One of my first bands I ever got into of rock or metal. Like 3 or 4 years old, I definitely was like running around my house singing Paranoid and War Pigs. To the fact that my parents used to yell at my brother about it because I was like, "This is all your fault." I used to yell at him, especially my dad, who was like, "Play that devil music, rock and roll bullshit," because he was a jazz guy and hated rock, and he was like, mostly. My mom likes some rock music, Stones, Beatles, whatever. So go watch the press screening, take some notes, go back to the press area, write up my story. And I had schoolwork to do this week also, and I was helping run Metal Army, so I was also doing stories, but whatever. I ran the next day after the press screening was the public screening and then the private Q&A. And so there's press from all over the world at this thing to cover films, but there really wasn't a lot of music press there at all because it wasn't really promoted to the music press to get in, and you had to apply through Tribeca and get in and get approved. And if you didn't get approved, there was no like last minute, I'll put you on the list like there is now in the music industry. Oh, I forgot this show is tomorrow. Can you put me on? And, if it's not a closed list, so usually a publicist will put you on. This was not the case with this thing. So I don't know if anyone asked late, but you definitely couldn't ask late and really get in. But apparently at the last second, Jose got added. I think Sharon personally invited him in as their guest, and they had like their own allotment of VIP badges. Sharon, Jack, Ozzy, Kelly was there. Amy was there. I know she's kind of reclusive and not really trying to be a celebrity. But so Jose Mangin got invited late and ended up being there, and I saw him, and I had met him and known him from around New York City when he lived on the East Coast. And hey, what's up, dude? You're here? He's like, yeah. I was like, I think you and I are the only two music press people here at all. Like, I don't think anyone else was here for this. Now, it's possible that I think at the time both Sucks was around, Metal Sucks and Injection, I think were both around at that time, and they might have gone to like the fan viewing and done a review. Don't quote me on that. I'm not saying no one else was there, but I was definitely the only music press accredited for Tribeca beside Jose Mangin, which was a nice feeling. And so the day comes to go do the fan screening, and I know the Q&A is next, and they explain to us the format of the Q&A is it's an auditorium of journos. There's a moderator on stage with the two mics, Jack and Ozzy, at the dais with microphones and stuff. They're going to speak first about the film and get interviewed by somebody, the moderator, and then they're going to take questions from the press, and you will get a one-on-one question with like Ozzy, which I have recorded still. And a lot of people, when you go to a thing like Tribeca Film Festival, and it's mostly digital now, but they used to give out these booklets of information, like a dossier on every film, on every director, on everybody in it, like literally exhaustive IMDB before IMDB quality booklets to do your research. And I'm sitting there, and Rolling Stone, instead of sending a music journalist, which boggles the fucking mind, even back 10 years ago, 8, 9 years ago, they sent their film editor, who told me she doesn't like metal or rock. So she and I became friends. We had been chatting about the Queen movie, These Are Days, had come there, and there was a few other movies that we had liked and sat near each other for. And she asked me, she's like, so I gotta ask honestly, is Ozzy really that big a deal? And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, why is he famous beside the Osbournes? And I was like, you don't really know? And she's like, no, I don't know at all. I don't like rock music, and I don't know. And I said, Ozzy is one of the most important figures in rock and roll history. He helped invent heavy metal. His voice is the sound of heavy metal. There are better singers, but you don't have metal without Ozzy. Like, you can try to not have metal without Ozzy. And then he was fired from his own band and started a solo career that was bigger than his band was, which is and revolutionary musically in a lot of ways. I sort of gave her the 5-minute stump speech on Ozzy and like why Ozzy is great and why you need to understand and love Ozzy. And respect Ozzy. I was like, like if you don't have a background for this, I don't really know what to tell you. So we go into the thing. There are people from all over the world. They do about half an hour. They ask Ozzy a couple of questions. They ask Jack a couple of questions. The directors give their say and their, feedback and everything. And we start to get the questions around the room. One person from Australia flew from Australia and was like, explain to us how you changed your style so much over the years to like rock music, to dance music, to rap. And Ozzy's like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And I think there had been like a rap Ozzy song on the Nativity in Black. They did like a Nativity in Black 2. There was like a song with Busta Rhymes, so there'd been some things. Maybe there was like not a dance remix, but there had been like maybe like one of the faster reimaginings of a Black Sabbath song felt like a dancey song. But I don't know where this guy got his information from. And there were like Snickers, even in that crowd of not music journos and music fans. People like, that's a very strange question to get after flying like 20 hours to America, staying in a fancy hotel, and getting a book this thick about Ozzy's life and not knowing what to talk about. Just mind-boggling. So, we were put off a little bit by some of these questions, or just like about the show and this and this and that. So it's my turn to talk. And, I had never really done anything like this before in terms of like sort of this, not professional, because obviously I've been a professional writer for a long time, even before I was a music journalist. But I just liked being a member of the press and things like this, and really just getting that validation and props. So for the Ozzy thing, it's like, oh, I'm going to be like 10 feet away from Ozzy. I may get to meet Ozzy. I'm going to dress up instead of wearing like my typical uniform of my entire life, jeans and a t-shirt and some kind of hoodie. I wore like a button-down shirt untucked, and which I would wear to like, work or, obviously school sometimes, and jeans and a sport coat. So I have like a blue blazer and my button down, and my pass are obviously around my neck, similar to Comic-Con badges and stuff like that. It's like a giant badge. I still have it here somewhere. And yeah, man, we go. I think I took a picture of myself in front of the marquee, which is still on Facebook somewhere. And I was like, this is right before I interviewed Ozzy Osbourne. So we go into the thing. We watch the film with the fans. The fans go fucking nuts. They love the film. There's people crying. There's people singing Black Sabbath songs in the middle. Whenever there's like a little message about Ozzy Ozzy comes on, people are like, there's a smattering of applause and woos and metal fans can't be fucking unruly by nature. So we go to the Q&A down the block. The fan showing was at the I'm gonna say Cineapolis, which is on 23rd and 8th. Cinematopia, one of those. Sorry, y'all, New Yorkers. I moved back here. I don't remember the names of things. SVA is down the block on 23rd Street in the 20s. And then the headquarters, sort of the press room area, was also in that neighborhood at a hotel. Hotel lobby was like portioned off for the press and check-in and the work area and stuff. So we go to SVA for the Q&A. I get in super early. I had already seen the film, so I think I ducked out on the credits to make sure I got my spot for the Q&A. And I run down the block, and I get my seat. I'm in the second row. The first row is blocked off. That security is there. Ozzy's security team is there. So Ozzy's entourage, his crew of people, handlers. Sharon was not at the dais, but she was floating around. And I saw Jose. Jose was sort of down the row from me. And Jose got a personal interview with Ozzy that I think then ended up somewhere else, Rolling Stone, Loudwire, or something. I have to check. I don't believe Loudwire. I wasn't aware if they were even a thing back then or if they were there. But so I'm part of the Q&A. You get like one question for anyone, but I'm going to ask Ozzy a question. So I stand up. Hey, Ozzy, music journalist, Keith Chakis, Metal Army America at the time. Lifelong fan, huge metalhead. Ozzy interrupts me and goes, if you're a huge metalhead, why are you dressed like that? In a shirt and a jacket. And I said, you dress up nice to meet the Prince of Darkness. And he laughed. They all laughed. So I was like, Ozzy, You've had your share of, issues in your life and problems. You seem to have come out on the other side. Do you feel like you've ever, you know, hurt or upset your fans by some of the stuff? The Alamo, bands, not things that sometimes weren't his fault, but just like, the antics. Do you think the antics, the Ozzy stuff, has hindered your reputation? And he's like, composed himself. And, Ozzy's not dumb. I know the TV show made Ozzy look dumb, but he's really smart. And he's really clever. He cannot hear shit. So kind of Jack was next to him, kind of repeating questions into his ear. And be like, what? He's like, he looked like No More Tears Ozzy. Long, beautiful brown hair, John Lennon glasses, like jacket, black on black kind of clothing. And he Jack will this is what he says. He's saying this in his ear. And he's like, oh, well, I just try to do the best I can. I made a lot of mistakes that I regret, but I love my fans. I love music. I love what I do. And I'm fortunate that I got into any success at all come from where I came from. But, I just try to be a better person today. And thank you for your question. And I was like, he didn't say that for anybody else. Thank you for your question. Because all the questions were dumb, except Jose and me and a few other people, New York Times, people who just understood what they just watched. And maybe some of the people didn't even watch. They just showed up to the Q&A. I don't know. There's no way to know. But if you saw the film I saw, you wouldn't ask some dumbass fucking question about his career or his life story or about the Osbournes. You would have asked a really legitimate, interesting question to him. If you could ask Ozzy one question, what would you ask? It certainly wouldn't be some dumb shit. How much coke do you think you've done? Fast forward to the rest of my music journalism career. I don't ask controversial questions, not because I'm afraid to, because I've asked some direct questions to artists, and difficult questions to artists, but I don't ask antagonistic questions to artists because I want a good rapport. I want them to open up and tell me stuff. I don't want them to feel threatened. So that's the style I was taught as a journalist when I went to journalism school at City College in New York. And that's, that's kind of how I approach things now. And so, so I got my one question with Ozzy Osbourne, which was amazing. And I sat back down. I had my recorder going. And I, took notes on the rest of the Q&A and, to report on the Q&A and the showing, along with my film review separately. And, it was surreal that I just talked to Ozzy and I was a few feet away from him. This guy I've worshipped since I'm a child, basically. And it was really cool. It was a lot of love. It was very positive. The filmmakers were really excited. One of the guys was not a music rock fan at all, but he loves to make movies, and he thought his partner was very passionate about metal and is a huge metalhead. And then Jack co-produced it, and this is before Jack got sick, and so Jack was this was one of his things, this is a way to honor my dad, and this is important. Ozzy doesn't get enough credit. This is a thought that Sharon has postulated quite a lot, although I think some of the things that they have done have probably cost him some of the respect and credit. So, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that's part of that story. So then after the Q&A, we were told hang out in the lobby and Ozzy is going to come out and say hi to you all. Ozzy's going to come say hi to us all. Cool. And I had my camera at the time, which was my Nikon 5100 and cool little lens that I had. I just started to shoot more serious concert photography at that time with a better camera, and I was sort of a little practiced and experienced at just shooting around for fun. I used to walk around Boston and just take pictures of stuff. Some of it is on my Facebook or on Pinterest or something. I don't know. I didn't have Instagram back then. Nobody did. So we go wait in the lobby, and this guy comes out, and he's like, hey, mate. A very, very severe accent. He's like, I really liked your question to Oz, man. He was like, you asked one of the best questions of the day. And I was like, oh, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. This is an incredible experience, and I just feel lucky to be near him after following him my whole life. And he was like, I'm Ozzy's personal assistant. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, I've been working with Ozzy for 30 years. And we're very close. I do everything for him. I also protect him, but we have security also. But he's like, I'm literally, but between, except for Jack and Sharon, I'm the only person that gets right next to Ozzy. He's like, when Ozzy comes out, do you want a photo with Ozzy? I was like, I do. Could I get one? He's like, I'll take your camera and take a picture. He's like, photography is one of my hobbies. I do this all the time. It's like, you can't touch him, but if you want to stand next to him and get he's lovely. I'll tell him you're cool and he'll take a photo with you. And I was like, I'm going to get a photo with Ozzy. Now, normally, anybody that knows me, I don't really go out and try to, like, starfuck bands. There was a time when I used to just, like, haunt the side door at Roseland in the 90s, or hang out by the door at the Ritz and wait to meet bands, or go to the Worcester Palladium, if you knew me when I lived in Boston, and hang out and take pictures with bands and rap with bands, even if they had seen me before the show to interview or whatever. But I was like, I'm going to get a photo with Ozzy. This is nuts. So we're all waiting around. And he's like, just when I give you the signal, I'm going to wave you over. You come over. Security's going to try to stop you. They're going to look at me, and I'm going to tell you you're cool. And you can come over and take this photo with Ozzy. And I was like, oh, man, I'm like going to pee myself with excitement. Like, I'm just like, I'm like fixing my jacket for the photo. Look at my fucking self in the phone. Like, how do I look? How do I look? I don't know. I'm not vain. No beard back then, just a little bit of goatee action. So Ozzy comes out, oh, everybody, it's great, thank you for coming, this is a blessing. And then the guy motions to me to come over, and he's like, you, points to me, you, come over. So I start walking over, and then this guy who's kind of a local guy here in New York City, I'm not going to name him right now, but if you've been to shows, you know him. He's older, he's a nuisance, and he's basically kind of a star fucking photography guy. And he takes pictures of celebrities and then he sells them on eBay or whatever. And he writes a fake autograph on them sometimes. He's literally a fucking pariah in this town. He's been around forever. And he will sometimes get passes to shoot shows. And he will get into Fashion Week. And he will get into Tribeca Film Festival somehow to do the red carpet and then sell those photos. Like, he's garbage. And he immediately bum rushes between me and the personal assistant Mike to make a beeline for Ozzy. Ozzy's ginormous security guy comes from out of the peripheral vision, like in slow motion in a movie, and puts his giant arm between that guy and Ozzy. And is like, we know who you are. Get out of here. That's it. This is over. And he walks Ozzy out. And the assistant guy looked at me and was like, sorry. Mouths the word sorry to me. And I was like, I'm not going to get my photo with Ozzy, but because of this fucking guy, who I still see now that I moved back here. He shows up at shows, and I want to fucking clock him every time I see him. People like this guy. I think he's a fucking menace. But the things I have to deal with. But whatever, I missed my picture with Ozzy. Fine, Ozzy is escorted out. Sharon, Amy, Kelly follow. Jack and the two directors are hanging out, though. The two Mikes and Jack. So I go over to Jack, and I was like, hey, Jack. Oh, hey. Nice question. I was like, thank you. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for being here. I just want to shake your hand and say I really appreciate what you did for your dad. It's very good of you to do this for Ozzy. And he was like, oh, man, I love my dad. And, it's just fucking nice, man. He's just a nice guy. I know Jack has been surly to fans and press, and I'm press. I'm not a fan, but, like, I like the guy, man. I think I asked that, are you going to make movies now? Or I know he had dabbled in the music industry, like trying to manage bands and start a label with his mom. I don't know if people know this. Jack famously discovered OTEP, actually, or helped discover OTEP with his mom, who was managing OTEP for the beginning of her career. So that's an interesting side story about Jack. But he was like, nah, we'll see. Project to project. I don't know what I want to do. I don't want to do another reality show. I was like, I hear you. Did you like the Osbournes? I was like, I love Black Sabbath and Ozzy. So I don't know if I love the Osbournes. But, and then I met the two directors and I asked them a couple of more journo questions. Them, I was like, oh, hey, to Jack, and I was like, oh, I'm Keefy. But to the two directors, I was like, I'm Keith from blah, blah, blah. So I asked them a couple of serious questions, just kind of off the record, about the experience and about working with Ozzy and Sharon and Jack and them. And, it was an incredible, incredible experience. I was this close to getting a photo with the man. I really don't pay for a lot of fan meet and greets. I've been lucky to do a few. one recently that was kind of by luck, and another one that was gifted to me by a dear friend. But a couple of years ago. But I don't normally do meet and greets. I usually press, and I want that separation between the media and the press. I want that delineation between being a fan and being a journo. But it was an amazing time. It was an amazing experience getting to talk to Ozzy and be in the room with him and watch this film about his life with him and his fans, because he also watched it. And he said it was only the second or third time he'd seen the whole thing all the way through. And, it was pretty surreal to get this kind of respect and props. I think some of that still carries over today. It's almost 10 years later. And, the film is excellent. You go out and seek it out. God bless Ozzy Osbourne. And really paints a really interesting picture of him and some of the stuff he's been through. It does actually touch on the ATV accident and the Parkinson's and some of that stuff a little bit. So it's kind of relevant to today. There's a lot of love for Black Sabbath. I was going to say, if you go to the IMDB page, and I'm just going to read it off, I mean, the list of people that they interviewed for this thing was like, obviously Blasco is in his band, Geezer, Puffy Borden, John Frusciante, Ross Halfin, Iommi, Tommy Lee, Paul McCartney. Ozzy loves the Beatles, dude. So Paul McCartney got in this film and was asked about like Black Sabbath and Ozzy and how he felt about heavy metal. And, Jim Norton, Lemmy, like it's pretty all the Osbournes, Rob Trujillo, Serge, Rudy Sarzo, Bill Ward, Zakk Wylde, of course, Randy Rhoads. There's a lot of archival footage, Nikki Sixx, a lot of people, man. So it was like a real loving portrait of Ozzy. I highly recommend anybody go check out God Bless Ozzy Osbourne. That is my Ozzy story on episode 3 of War Stories with Keefy. Drop me a message on IG on this, on DM me at Ghost Cult Keefy, DM me at Ghost Cult Mag, tweet at me, whatever, Ghost Cult Keefy, at Ghost Cult Mag, DM me on Facebook. Tell me how you like this series. They're going to start going up soon on YouTube. I am going to put them on the Ghost Cult YouTube. I think they're interesting and relevant as a series of ongoing stories, especially during this quarantine time. We have some other video content coming. Please like and subscribe to us on YouTube. If you do like this kind of content and you're seeing this video, press subscribe and click the bell so you get the notification whenever our videos come on and premiere. And at a certain point, we'll start doing some live premieres and chats with you guys. We're going to bring that content to you too in the next few months. So again, I deeply appreciate all of you for being here and listening to me tell my life story and music. I'm not the most interesting guy, but I think I'm interesting a little bit. Thank you very much for your time. Have a good night.